Okay, let's do it. George Carlin. We're going to zone in on a clip of George Carlin performing comedy. We're going to break down the stand-up comedy techniques he's using, because that's what we do on this channel. And this is part of a course I have just released on Patreon. It's a George Carlin masterclass. It's looking at every single one of his techniques. How can we approach comedy writing in his style? He was one of the originators of modern stand-up comedy writing. The style that you see so many famous comedians using today. George Carlin was one of the few comedians that helped design that modern approach. On the list, we explore every single angle from entering a premise, exploring a premise, specific language. George Carlin got so much more material out of one word than anyone else I've ever had to analyze on this channel. Expanding material, building curiosity. Rather than just offending people straight out the gate, he expanded into a material slowly, built curiosity around the topic, and then hit them hard with putting himself into the most emotional part of that story, which is chapter 6. And chapter 7 is the overall philosophy that I believe George Carlin had towards this kind of material, towards stand-up comedy, which is fascination. Every single time he approached a topic, it was like fascination. He asked all the correct questions. So let's jump into it.
Another word you don't hear too often is dingleberries. You know, you never hear it on Meet the Press. The dingleberry solution, dingleberry gate, nothing. I think it's because dingleberries is one of them words you don't say too much past your 10th birthday. It's not a grown-up's word.
Boom. Okay, straight away. Let's stop it there. We just said the word dingleberries, and all of a sudden, it's an entire premise. It's a word. It's not even a place. It's not I was in a taxi cab at 4 a.m. He doesn't even need to paint that much of a picture. That's a topic. He said another word we don't hear very often, right? So let's break it down, the approach. All he used to do was challenge assumptions, follow one idea, and dissect language. That was the three areas in which Carlin would approach comedy. There are other things going on, but consistently, this is his approach. In every one of his specials, as he developed as a performer, as he started to gain interest in other fields and started to be more outspoken as he grew older, it was always the same way of approaching comedy. And let's see the importance and the power of starting a premise like this. The reason it's so important is because it's shared curiosity. Write that word down, shared curiosity. If you can get the audience interested in the concept before the emotional part, and you can dissect and give them information about how you view it, then you can put yourself into whatever part you wanted. Let's go back and check it out.
The kids' word, dingleberries. Always sounded kind of Christmassy to me. Don't you think it has a holiday ring to it? Dingleberries. John, you might want to hang some dingleberries over the front door. Then when Mary Ann comes over, she can kiss you under the dingleberries. It is to be devoutly wished that she would kiss me under the dingleberries.
Boom. A whole little, a small, beautiful, packed bit full of what is perceived to be punchlines, even though they're not. What's going on? He's turning just tiny bits of information around the feeling and the behavior and the language of one word, the word dingleberries. So he's asking after the word, you can see how okay, so we can hopefully in our stand-up comedy start to riff on stage. But that's only comes after we've already explored all the possible angles in our writing, right? So we kind of get there ahead of time. If we're going to riff and if we're going to improv on stage, we also want to explore as many areas as in our writing so that when we go and riff, we know what areas to enter. And that's where Carlin was such a master. He's already asked all the questions. If I'm going to talk about dingleberries, and that's going to be a topic, an actual topic, where was the last time you were confident enough to use just one word as your topic? Well, why is it the word? Who invented it? Now, you can go down through the list of questions that I have on the screen now, and you don't need to use all of them. You can use the ones that appeal to your character, to your interest? Which one of these is one that you would like to dive into and try and uncover? Even if, are there adult words you can use? Or can words have personalities? That's an interesting one. Can words have personalities? If dingleberries, the word, if you had a conversation with the word, how would that word interact with you? Is it a light sounding word? Could you get along with dingleberries? This is the kind of way George Carlin would approach stand up comedy. And when you approach it this way, there are no limits to creativity. Every single opportunity, every time you ask a question, it brings a different emotion, it brings different feelings. It brings a different absurd connection and comparison to something else. You can personify just about anything because it's shared curiosity. If you start from this kind of a premise and you start entering with the kind of questions that are on the screen now, it's inevitable that the next thing you say has to be the most interesting point of the story you're going to talk about, or the most interesting point of the opinion you have. And the only way you can get there is if you start and write and exhaust all possible angles of the story you're talking about, right? Most of it won't be said on stage, but you've explored it so deeply that you've stumbled across the interesting part. That's why I'm always telling you to write 10 observations about a point of view in the story you have. Write 10 exaggerations. Write 10 behaviors people have at that place. And when you exhaust all these options, you'll look down through all your lists you've created and you'll point out the most interesting point. And that is how you follow up. That's the next thing you say after one of these sentences that enter the premise. And it can be only interesting from then on. This has been a very small deep dive on George Carlin's approach to stand-up comedy. Jump into the description box. Check out the Patreon entire masterclass I have on George Carlin. It's over an hour long. It packs so many writing prompts from George Carlin, practical examples and breakdowns of how he approached comedy with a much longer clip dissected by me. All right, get onto the description, check out the Patreon. If it's for you, I'd love to have you on board. Until then, I'll see you on the next one.